Back at it today with another lap review, where I take one of your laps and dissect them at tracks I have already driven on. On the chopping block today is Sterling with his Porsche 991.1 GT3. What he doesn't know is that this generation car was one of the first cars I ever drove on track in anger, so I'm pretty excited to dive into this one. Let's go. Hey guys, I'm Felix Elizardi, an 8-year veteran of HPDEs and Trackdays, certified PCA instructor who drives a mostly stock GT4 RS and have set some pretty spicy laps at COTA and some other tracks. Today we are reviewing Sterling's lap in his black with yellow accent 991.1 GT3 to see what we can learn together and maybe poke at him a little. This car is mainly a COTA rat that is fully kitted out, so it's a very capable machine. From the outside, we can see he has fitted an APR wing and splitter to the car and topped off his aero package with cup dive planes. The car has MCS 3-way adjustable shocks and an AP brake kit and full exhaust package from Dundon Motorsports. To complete the build, he got rid of all the rubber bushings the car came with stock and installed Emotion Engineering arms with spherical bushings. This recipe paired with 19-inch wheels and R7s looked like a very capable one. Honestly, I would love to see a price breakdown, but how do we keep this video away from his wife? Comment below if we should do a build breakdown of this car with pricing, and we will pressure Sterling into trailing his car to our shop in Austin. For this review, we'll be looking at his best lap at COTA, where he ran a 2:19.51. Sterling's car actually has a V-Box data system in it, so we can see everything he's doing in the car. I will let y'all see his onboard first, then we'll dive into it. Okay guys, we have pulled up his lap, and I'm gonna start with a caveat that he made as well. For this lap, or for the previous lap, he actually passed 2 club sports, in one before turn 20, one after 20. So his turn 1 run is compromised, but still I looked at it compared to other laps and it's still not terrible, right? Because he entered a little bit slower, but he had really good speed through turn 1. So yeah, let's get into it. Going up turn 1 at COTA. And right off the rip, you're gonna see he's kind of feeding in the brakes. Supposedly he had some sort of brake issue. I don't know if it was he was getting used to the brake pads or a brake fluid issue. But you can tell in all his brake zones, he's kind of like ramping in the brake, and not ramping in aggressively, kind of ramping it in as soft as possible, I guess, if that's a thing. So we're coming into turn 1, he used all the track, and you can see right away he's chirping the tire on entry, or his steering goes from this to this. Let's watch more of it before I make a comment on his steering inputs. Okay. Okay, so he's tracking out of 1. I already started back and forth, back and forth. Okay, tracking out of 1, and he's rolling good throttle, moves the car left. I'm gonna pause this, hold on. So for VBox, there's, VBox has an app where you can connect to the HD2 unit with your phone via Wi-Fi, and when you do that, it allows you to better position the cameras. So for sure, on the driver cam, this one over here, he needs to manage the brightness because all I see is a white windshield. And then this one's pretty good, but this one can be pointed further down to where the gauges are on the hood. So hop onto your phone and correct these cameras just because that's super bright. It's nothing. Right, camera guy? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Overexposed for sure.
Overexposed. I knew that. Okay, so he moves the car left, and here into turn 2, instead of moving to turn 2, so I feel this is a more beginner approach where you move the car left into turn 2, big release, or release of the brake, release of the throttle, and then turn it in. I feel that once you get comfortable in a car, or in a car that has suspension and aero, the car should turn in with throttle. If the car doesn't turn in with throttle, you kind of have an aero balance problem. So turn in with throttle, and then whatever excess speed you need to shave, you kind of retreat a little bit of throttle through 2, then get back on it. So as you get more comfortable, I would let the car move left, and then move it right with the same wide open throttle. Your car should definitely have enough front end, especially on Who's Your R7s. Then if the car is moving too far left, you kind of just come out of it a little bit, and the car should stay where it's at versus going far left. Again, you have a splitter, so your front end is gonna gain aero through 2 because we're going from 80 to 90 to 100. So your whole car is gonna gain downforce as you're at 2. Okay, here we're coming into turn 3, and automatically he is turning in way too late. So at turn 2, he didn't even let the car move all the way left. So that tells you that there's way more mile an hour to be had here, because the car, you do want to make it move all the way left on track out. Coming into 3, he's so far right, and he's turning so late that he's by far going to miss the left-hander here, and he does. So if he would have just let the car move all the way left, or move left one car further, and done the same kind of approach into turn 3 and the same turn in, he would be on the paint, or he'd be straddling that inside. He'd be straddling that curbing. Obviously, super important to be straight from 3 to 4, or have a composed car from 3 to 4 versus having one with wheel. Because if he ends up touching that curb, he's still kind of going left versus going straight from 3 to 4. So since he's not using all of 3, he's going to have to use all of 4. Because if he decides to not use all of 4, he's going to go on the inside of 5. And he knows that. So here I can tell really quick too is he's, I'm starting to see a lot of overlay on throttle and brake. That just means he's a left foot braker. So here he kind of recouped the lap by eating all of 4. But one thing I'm going to get to here is for a MCS car, I feel there's a lot of like head bobbing. So I think there's some tuning to be had here. Yeah, the car's moving around way too much for having MCS. Here, where are you gonna say it? You're too early in. Here, you need to kind of let the car float a little bit left, and then later apex, right? Because this is all connected. Just like 3 is connected to 4 or 5, 6 is connected to 7, 7's obviously connected to 8. I would be okay with saying that like those are 2 separate sections, right? 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7, 8. So here, he is super pinched, so I guarantee you that before 7, he's not gonna be able to move the car all the way right which obviously compromises your entry or your speed through 7. So this was, you can see all the dirt on the right here. So you do want to be this deep into the curbing, but later. Yep, and here he has, again, he's got pedal overlay. He's not able to move the car all the way right. I wish we really didn't have these gauges in the way because that would tell us a little bit better where exactly he is. And he didn't have the burst of throttle or the burst of full throttle just because he's so pinched on entry. And if he has that burst of throttle, it's literally going to spit him towards 7. Yeah, it's a little bit of brake to get the front end. And in 7 here, he just kind of touched 7. 7, what I've found, or the smoothest way through 7, even on stock suspension cars, is if you put like half a car on 7, or you put half a car on 7, the car usually just soaks it up. If you go a little bit more, for some reason, it kind of like gas. And if you just touch it, then it's also super abrupt. Here, up 8, I really like this line where entering a little bit wide, crossing over, and this is definitely only a line you could do if you have good grip in the car. If you're on a car on 200s or something like that, like there's no way you're gonna keep the car wide on entry, right? Because the car's just gonna wanna move right out of 7, especially if you're hustling through 7. But in a car with grip, I think this is a really good approach. Enter a little bit wide. I obviously think there's a little bit more speed to be carried up. And here I am of the opinion that you want to kind of keep the trail a little bit up or point the car with the trail or at least get it transitioned over with the trail. Then roll throttle. So great line through here. Big chop of the throttle. We've always said that from 8, from here, once you go to full throttle, so he does not go to full throttle. So exiting here from right to left, that you should be going to full throttle. Now, 9 is very abrupt. His car on MCS could, I mean, maybe with some tweaking, could probably take 9 flat. But then again, this is the biggest risk-reward place at COTA, right? Maybe if he keeps it through 9, the car's going to be super upset, but he's going to find a 10th. At the end of the day, is it really worth it? So if you're not that comfortable, what I would do is when you move from right to left, I'd go to full throttle, chop the throttle out of it, but then go to full. When you go back on full throttle, I always say this, stay on full throttle. But here, as you're moving from right to left, again, lay it down, release. Don't go to like 50, 60%. If the car can take 50, 60 there, it can take 100, chop it back off. And then good there, he lets the car move right. 10's gonna be tough, yep. So the reason you're seeing him displace 10 is because he's telling the car to turn and he's still over curbing here, right here. So he's telling the car to turn as he is going over the rumbles. The car's not gonna turn too well. Here we're probably gonna see something similar in the brake pedal where he feeds in the brakes. Yeah, feeds in the brake more and more pressure as we're getting closer. So ideally you wanna do it backwards right. A lot of initial brake pressure and then start chopping off of it. I wanna go back to his steering input. So I think his steering input goes kind of abrupt. And I would like to see him, especially in this 991 generation cars, that's McPherson, I would like to see him almost getting all the way to the apex on the brakes. On these cars, and because I drove a 991.1 GT3 RS for forever, if you don't get the car rotated and kind of pointed down track and you roll heavy throttle, the car's just gonna push. So here he goes to 20. Yeah, so if he would have just either trailed a little bit more or waited a little longer, if he would have trailed a little bit more, been patient a little bit on the throttle, it wouldn't have spit him out that wide because he still has a ton of wheel in it here. If you see the onboard, he's like this. But it's just gonna spit him wide. So one thing I never said is the 991.1 GT3s with the 3.8 sound insane. Definitely one of my favorite cars. So in the back, he's probably gonna do 151, 152, maybe 153. That's really good. That's a healthy 991.1. Big brakes, again, fed the brakes. And here you're seeing that he's kind of like feathering the brake in and out. At COTA, I think that's okay, especially for this corner. If you see that there's actually little ripples on track. So the car, we lose we lose elevation, and it has a ton of ripples. Again, a lot of wheel into apex. I'm just wondering if the car has push in it or if that's just happening because it's coming down or going downhill. At 12, you will gain compression at the apex. Yeah, so he's feeding throttle to get the car to turn, which is okay. Yep, so broke just slightly too late, right? Because he's still trying to manage that brake problem. Broke too late, so now he's displacing it. And yeah, so broke too late. I did also see this in a few places. If we look down here, I think it was turn 11. We didn't pay too much attention to it, but he does have a lot of places where he's kind of in no man's land, meaning that the car's not on the brake or on the throttle. And in my opinion, you always need to have the car on one end, but you can't have it in no man's land and then feed 30% off the rip, right? So as you're coming off the brake, especially turn 13, coming off the brake, start feeding that throttle, but feed it slowly. Don't go from 0 to 30 because he's already early, so it's gonna spit him out wide. Yep, and that's the case, but he still gets the car to rotate. Wide open throttle through here. Big brake, chuck the brake off. That's perfect for turn 15. Again, we lose the steering marker through 15. So again, I'm starting to wonder, like, does the car have too much push in it or too much understeer? Because he's having to put a lot of wheel in the car, but then again, he's really not trailing the crap out of the car, right? Because here he's already adding throttle and he's 2 car lengths away from the apex, pointing towards the middle of the grandstand. So how is the car not gonna go off track? Even managing throttle. Yep, even managing throttle. Here, carousel, definitely entering a little too early. And I already saw he's doing the throttle release. That's a clear indication, again, that the car has understeer or that you can't get the front end to get hooked up. I would count a half Mississippi here on entry, or wait a little bit longer, closer to the bridge. Use the bridge as a reference, but stay a little left a little longer. That way it opens up the carousel. You're definitely too pinched into the first section. You're still gonna make that apex, so you're gonna have to rotate the car a lot here, which you did, or be a little bit slow on entry. Here, since you are so hugged to the inside, I'd be like, you best start rolling wide open throttle soon, right? Because that's gonna make the car move left and you'll be able to maximize the whole track. So I do kind of like the V approach that he's taking through the carousel. Still a little bit of space left on the left, whatever. Again, left foot breaker here, so he's having some overlap. Just, I guess, looking for balance. Try not to have too much overlap. The 992s aren't too happy with it, but I guess the 991s are fine. Brakes, start releasing the brakes. This is gonna be a really good line through here, through 19. Yep, lets the car move right. All the track. Again, feeding the brake. And here you see that exact same thing where he's just like, and you're going right. Just, the big brakes. So look at how much brake pressure he has here, and look at how much wheel. Like, he's at 70% brake and already started to add a ton of wheel. Like, the car is obviously not gonna turn. He still makes the apex. I think he crabbed. No, he didn't crab in a little. Whatever. He made this work. But it's got a ton of wheel in it. Goes from 22% brake, chops the brake out of it, hops straight to 30% throttle, still before the apex. So what's gonna happen? He's gonna go wide and he's gonna have to wait to apply throttle. So if he just is a little bit later everywhere, or gets the car rotated, rolls throttle early, I think that's gonna be a good recipe for him. Okay guys, what do I take away from reviewing this lap? Well, it's kind of weird because it is as I'm seeing myself on this onboard from a few years back, where I'm slightly inconsistent in braking and line, giving the car harsh inputs, all in pursuit of finding the edge. Now, Sterling doesn't have the big catches that I used to have, but his driving looks very familiar. Also, now that I think about it, I never saw the rear of his car step out, which is obviously good in a 911, but could also mean the car is gripped up in the rear slightly too much. I used to think if the car isn't dancing, I'm not going fast enough. And yes, that is the correct mindset to an extent, but there's a difference on sneaking up to it than chucking it across the limit. As you drive more and more on the track, your inputs will refine themselves naturally, but do not be scared to talk to yourself when you are out there. I'm sure on most of my onboards, I'm telling myself, easy, roll throttle, squeeze, and there is a lot of turn, baby, turn in my onboards. If someone is not there in the right seat coaching you, you better be doing it yourself. So for Sterling, I'm going to say, after you fix your brake problem, I do want you to keep the feeding of the brake. This versus slamming the brake and going straight into ABS. Feeding the brake, obviously with a good ramp, I feel better allows you to read the surface under you. Yes, you will need to extend the braking zones by a few meters, but you will be much more consistent throughout your laps and will have a more composed and neutral car at apex. This is extremely important in the 991s because they need that trail every single time. This covers our issues into the apex, and out of the apex, I need you to learn to be a little more patient on that throttle pedal. Squeeze is what you need to be telling yourself at every single track out. Once you have all that dialed in, I want you to start working on learning to tell the car when and where you're going to turn. Well, Felix, isn't that done just by turning the wheel? Well, yes, but no. There is such thing called setting the car. This is definitely a more advanced technique, but if you are new to the sport and can implement this early on, you'll be miles ahead of everyone. The easiest way to comprehend or picture this is by imagining that your car's suspension has very soft bushing and the tires have a lot of flex. If you turn the wheel fast from center, every component has to go from neutral to loaded, as well as your tires. This will cause the car to make an abrupt movement or jerk to one side. While on track, it's the same thing. Oh, and by the way, if you look at every Formula One onboard, this is something they do every time. Let's go to turn 12 at COTA. Left-hand turn. You approach the corner with big brakes, and at the end of your braking moment, the best way to get this done is by letting the car move slightly right, give it a little left wheel, and now every bushing and tires on the car are preloaded and ready to turn left. You are no longer suggesting for it to turn, but have prepared it for the upcoming corner. Look at some fast onboards again, and you may see this technique implemented more clearly. Sterling, you have an advantage to all of us with this because those 991s give amazing input through the steering wheel compared to the modern cars. If you would like to get your lap reviewed, send your footage, description of your car, and mods to media@sagamotorsports.com. Also, please feel free to comment below if you think there is more lap time to be found for Sterling and where you see the biggest room for improvement. Before you go, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button if you're a fan of the 991 generation cars. Guys, I'll see y'all in the next one or at the racetrack.